Something else about the Clinton case, though, is that there's a concept in Westminster systems called ministerial responsibility. I've got a link here to the Wikipedia page, and I guess I just assumed that there was a concept of ministerial responsibility in the United States. But the argument that they're throwing around, which is that she's not responsible because she didn't know, seems to suggest that there is no concept of ministerial responsibility in the United States. In Canada, that wouldn't fly. In the UK, in Australia, this argument would not work. If she didn't know, then that doesn't mean that she's not responsible. She is still responsible even if she didn't know. And in fact, she's incompetent for not knowing. So she would be expected to have oversight over her employees and expected to take responsibility for any errors that they make. So if there's this argument that she doesn't know what her employees are doing, then that means that she's incompetent and she should be fired immediately. So it would be discarded legally and used against her politically. Maybe not in criminal matters, right? There's still a concept of a mens rea. You have to have a guilty mind before you can commit a crime, right? There has to be some concept of intent. But certainly in a concept, but in a negligence concept, right? You don't need a mens rea to be negligent, or a mens rea has a different concept with negligence, right? Is it reasonably foreseeable, right? But she would be held, like if there were any criminal consequences as an example, as a consequence of our hiring decisions, she would be held negligent for that here. But beyond that, she would at least certainly be expected to resign. She wouldn't her presidency, even like if this is the argument for not indicting her, that would end up with a dead end politically if she lived in Canada or the United Kingdom or Australia, right? So again, this is another example of just kind of like where did like ministerial responsibility is a very old concept. In Canada, we consider it a part. It's an unwritten part of our Constitution, right? And the unwritten parts of our Constitution include things like the Magna Carta, the presumption of innocence. The oldest aspects of the English legal tradition, and ministerial responsibility is in that collection of traditions that are hundreds of years old. So, and there's plenty of examples, of historical examples of ministers resigning due to a lack of oversight. So where did that idea go? I don't know. I would like to have that discussion. Maybe if you're reading this, put it in the comments. Give me a book to read, or a person to talk to, or something about what happened to the concept of ministerial responsibility in the United States. Was it there after the Revolutionary War for a period and then disappeared? Was it discarded? In the process of the Americans building, their system, where did it go? What's the story there? I'm curious because it's still in force in most of the Commonwealth, and like I said, this argument wouldn't work. It might work in a criminal sense, but it would be the end of her career.